pitch, loudness, and the tone of sound. Physical Sciences, grade 10. We have two friends, Tom and Jerry. These two friends are going to say the same sentence, and I want you to listen to the pitch of their voice. What I mean is, I want you to listen to how low or how high their pitch is. Put another way, I want you to listen to how deep or how shrill their voice is. Let's say Tom's voice sounds like this. The frequency of a sound wave is what your ear understands as pitch. And let's say Jerry's voice sounds something like this. The frequency of a sound wave is what your ear understands as pitch. Who between the two, Tom or Jerry, has a high pitch, or who between the two has a low pitch? Who has a deep voice and who has a shrill voice between Tom and Jerry? Think about it. Tom's voice is what we would describe as high pitch or shrill, and Jerry's voice is what we would describe as low pitch, or that is quite deep. So Tom's voice is very shrill, whereas Jerry's voice is very deep. In this lesson, we will talk about the characteristics of sound, such as pitch, loudness, commonly known as volume, and tone. In this lesson about sound, we're going to relate the pitch of sound to the frequency of a sound wave, the loudness of sound to both the amplitude of a sound wave and how sensitive the human ear is, as well as relate the quality of sound or the tone to the waveform as it appears to the listener. Let's say you hear a sound. Sound is a wave, meaning it has a frequency f. This frequency is what your ear understands or interprets as pitch. This means the frequency of sound reaches your ear as pitch. As I mentioned in the beginning, the pitch of sound can be low, meaning very deep, or high, meaning shrill. This should tell you that there's a relationship between the frequency of a sound and pitch. The higher the frequency, the higher the pitch. And the lower the frequency, the lower the pitch. This means that frequency is directly proportional to the pitch of sound. As the frequency of sound increases, the pitch also increases. As the frequency of sound decreases, the pitch also decreases. Between the sound a child makes when they cry and the roar of a lion, which sound do you think has a high pitch and which has a low pitch? Is the sound the child makes of a higher frequency or of a lower frequency? Or is the sound the lion makes of a higher frequency or of a lower frequency? A child crying. When a child cries, the sound that they make is very high pitched, meaning it has a high frequency. Remember, we said that frequency is directly proportional to pitch. The higher the frequency, the higher the pitch. But a lion's roar has very low pitch, meaning it has a low frequency. The lower the frequency, the lower the pitch. So this means that a child's cry is shrill, whereas a lion's roar is very deep. Let's say you hear a sound. Sound is a wave, meaning it has an amplitude. The amplitude of sound is what your ear understands or interpret as loudness, or sometimes called volume. This means the amplitude of sound reaches your ear as loudness or volume. There's a relationship between the amplitude of a sound and loudness. The louder the sound, meaning the higher or the larger the amplitude. The softer the sound, the smaller the amplitude. Or else, the higher the volume, the larger the amplitude. Or the lower the volume, the smaller the amplitude. When you are increasing the volume on your smartphone, you are actually increasing the loudness, meaning you are increasing the amplitude of sound. This means that loudness or volume is directly proportional to the amplitude. If you increase the volume or the loudness, or if you increase the amplitude, you also increase the volume. If you decrease the amplitude, you also decrease the volume. The loudness of sound is also determined by the sensitivity of your ear. The human ear is more sensitive to some frequencies than to others. The volume we receive, therefore, depends on both the amplitude of the sound wave and whether the frequency lies in a region where our ear is sensitive. In the next video, we will learn about ultrasound, which is sound of very high frequency, but we can actually not hear it. Let us say that two musicians were playing a musical note with the same frequency at the same volume, but on different instruments. For example, let's say that Alicia Keys was playing a piano and Ed Sheeran was playing his guitar. Both are playing the same frequency, let's say 256 Hz, for example, and at the same volume. If the frequency is the same and the volume is the same, we should expect the sound we hear to be the same, right? Wrong. The sound coming from the two instruments will be very different. But why? This is a property of sound called the tone. Different instruments produce different tones, even if the volume or the frequency at which they are playing is the same. This is because the waveform of a musical note coming from a guitar and that coming from a piano will look very different, even if they had the same frequency or volume. The oscilloscope screenshot on your screen shows two waveforms that look very different, even though the frequency is the same. The shape of the two waveforms is not the same, but the frequency is the same. The frequency is equals to 1.63964 kilohertz. Why are these two waveforms different? These two waveforms come from different instruments. Since the waveform look different, or since the waveform from different instruments look different, when they reach your ear, they will also sound different. Therefore, you will hear different tones of the same frequency. It does not matter if the frequency of the sounds you hear is the same or the volume is the same, as long as the waveforms or the shape of those sound waves is different. Your ear will hear different tones. We have said that pitch is directly proportional to frequency. The higher the pitch, the higher the frequency, and the lower the pitch, the lower the frequency. We've also said that loudness is directly proportional to an amplitude. The larger the amplitude, The louder the sound, the smaller the amplitude, the softer the sound. And we've also spoken about tone, and the two notes of the same pitch and same volume or loudness, but played on different instruments, do not sound the same because the waveforms from these two instruments are very different, and therefore the sound we hear will differ in quality or tone. Keep on the lookout for the next episode on sound, as we will be looking at question 7 of the March 2015 control test based on sound waves.